Joining me is Ambrose Sweder, who's a lawyer, Michael Ogwanda, governance expert, as well as John Mutambu, former Mwingi Central Member of Parliament. Welcome to the show, gents.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Standard is leading with a story on the BBI, and they're calling it the Scramble for Kenya. Now, I'll read an excerpt here that says, "A fresh start, BBI presents the country's biggest political moment since the 2010 referendum. We are on the cusp of a new Kenya, and this is how it's shaping up." And then they go ahead to give us a map of those proposed positions that, of course, it is said that some leaders are jostling for and putting up a stage to get them. And then there are some very interesting quotes here. I'll start with Uasin Gishu Governor Jackson Mandago, and he has been quoted as having said, "Mambo ya BBI hiyo isiwasumbue akili. Hii BBI is not about you, it is about sisi wenye tuko kwa viti. Sisi wengine tulikuwa tumeona tunakaribia kwenda nyumbani." And then there's another quote equally interesting by Court Both Francis Atwoli. This one is not new. He is quoted to have said, "Where is Uhuru going? And he's young. Atasumbua watu wengine. We must amend the constitution to accommodate him somewhere." I'd like the panelists to get on the fun. What do you feel this is all about? Do you agree with the story?
Oh yes, BBI, I had said, good morning viewers, I had said that there is the real BBI, the other one was curtain dressing.
So the real one was
the real one. No, that one was for window dressing for Kenya. But the real BBI, where we are talking about presidency, powerful prime minister, positions. This is the one that is now being cooked.
Okay. And
you can see, even when people say, "I agree with it," you are being told you oppose it, and so on. So people like Comrade Atwoli, they are inciting President Uhuru to design ways to cling to power. But unfortunately, I think the moment Baba Moi left, he was the only person we thought would try to cling to power.
Okay.
When he left in 2002, he set a stage that Honorable Kibaki followed. It will be very difficult for President Uhuru to roll this back. Some of his close friends, those who pray for him, like myself here, we will go naked in the streets to ensure that the constitution is obeyed and he leaves. Because this is for our children and great-grandchildren. He knows that a good man leaves an inheritance for his grandchildren. He has grandchildren. So this BBI that has recognized the nation, and they're trying to recognize, we are saying that those who are trying to say some people are too young, those who are trying to say we need to create positions for regional government and regional governors and so on, when ugali is 130 shillings and there is nothing to eat, they are really, really, really dreaming. We will have a lot of war if that's what they want.
But some would argue, or as the article puts it, it's not about him clinging to power, but just creating somewhere that he can have a safe landing on after he, you know.
Clinging to power basically means you do it the Putin style. You know, Putin, one time he was president, and then he became prime minister, then he puts his friend, he goes around. That's the game the people like Comrade Atwoli and Honorable Ayala would like us to introduce in this country. And I urge my President Uhuru, after 10 years, you've had your best full commander-in-chief, leave a chance to somebody. This gerrymandering and sub-rattling that these people are trying to put for us will endanger this country for no reason.
Okay. Now, I like that you brought up your usual, quite predictable point about ugali. And the article actually alludes to that. And it says the push for constitutional reforms is increasingly become defined by fierce lobbying for more leadership positions sold by politicians as a remedy for the winner-take-all system, which has been blamed for election violence. But then national concerns like unemployment and cost of living that are dear to special interest groups like farmers and business people have been swept under the carpet. Literally what you're saying. Mr. Ogwanda, what do you feel about that?
Good morning, viewers. Looking at what is happening here, I'm starting to think that this is more of a personal placement in positions than the interests of the country. I'm not saying that BBI is bad. I strongly believe that they're good in it. The constitution can be changed after every 10 years. It's very possible. Looking at the issues that are emerging in a country, it's not static. It can be changed. However, I want to agree that there are a little bit of ambitiousness in this BBI thing. And I think it is looking at individuals more than something for posterity. It's looking at, for example, I'll give the position for regional governors that are there. I've lived abroad and I've seen governors come and go. Nobody ever asks what they're going to do after their offices.
Yeah. Only in Kenya.
Only in Kenya, where a governor has served for 2 terms, in most cases is done literally nothing. It's probably looted. He should be in jail. That governor should be in jail, but you're trying to create a position for him because you think that he was too powerful, he was too good, he danced a lot in the discourse, and he was good on the podium, and therefore he has no place to go. We should not care where this governor is going to be.
That's
if he was good enough to have led his county well, maybe he needs to seek for another elective position like senator. Maybe some of these governors need to go to the Senate or go to Parliament or become MCAs for that point. Or if not, they need to go and do business and become advisors and elders of their counties. But not to look for another position. And then you actually position it so well, and now you're starting to talk about it because you fear that this individual might be troublemaker. If they will be troublemaker for that reason, then why are we not ensuring that the state organs that ensures that there's discipline, not necessarily discipline, but that there's security, that people's rights are not infringed on, will ensure that these people who will be problem will be taken care of. But I also want to say this, so the same tone, Tricks. Last few days, there have been a rally of BBI in Meru, and a lot has been said about it. But there are 2 things that I'm hearing that are new, and it's starting to give me a hope for the BBI discussions. Right. When you look at Mount Kenya region, and I'm not from there, so I really can't speak on their behalf, but there's one thing that they kept on saying, 1 vote, 1 man, and 1 shilling. They've taken a position and they're saying, we are many. Will these numbers, if we are looking at the census that are just taking place, be able to make a difference in our life? The second thing that I've noticed is when Honorable Rengo stood up and said, people have talked about positions in this BBI, but have you also realized that in those 9 points agenda, there's also shared prosperity? And I said, well, that's a really, really good thing to think about. It means that we are starting to discuss issues than individuals and political rhetorics that we've seen in this. The third one that I want to bring about, which is totally new into the ballgame, is what ODM did. And they went to the BBI team and presented a memorandum of how they want the governance of this country to look like. But above everything else that was said in the rallies, they brought in something new. And that something new is turning the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, or DCI for that reason, into an autonomous body, like perhaps you'll be looking at FBI, CIA, and perhaps even giving it a name like Kenya Bureau of Investigation. Because I really think that this country, when we start having issues, discussing issues, then we go somewhere. I want to really think that when you're talking about the Director of Criminal Investigation being an autonomous body in this case, then you're looking at an investigation office that will do its work devoid of the interference of National Police Service. And as we've realized, we've had so many deaths in this country, we've had so many things in this country, but because you have the the Director of Criminal Investigation must report to an OCPD or a regional police head for that reason. They cannot investigate their own bosses. I think perhaps we need to start thinking about these issues and discussing them well, like I think that proposal of having DCI turn into an independent body just like NIS will be something that will add value into our investigative system and bring in an independent investigation devoid of that huge national police service.
All right, and we're going to talk more about that during the next segment, the way it is with Michael. But there is a graphic that has been put on page 6. I like your sentiments on this, because we are being told this is a fight for regional supremacy, and that's just a map that is telling us what this is going to be. Right there, we are having Gideon Moi and William Ruto being tagged to the Rift Valley, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Wycliffe Oparanya tagged to Western, Anne Waiguru, Mwangi wa Iria, Peter Kenneth tagged to Central, Kalonzo Musyoka, Kivutha Kibwana and Alfred Mutua, Eastern. Coast we have Amason Kingi and Hassan Joho, while we have Ali Roba and Aidan Duale being tagged to Northeastern. Honorable Mutambo, what do you make of this? Do you agree with this distribution as it has been represented on page 6 of the Standard?
No, I totally don't agree, because I don't see my name. Neither do I see Ambrose's name. I don't agree.
Yeah?
You can see the Nyanza region. Left for Baba. That's Baba. Baba's already taken.
I don't see Ambrose's name.
Yeah.
And I don't see my name.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? Kenya is not for a certain clique.
Yeah.
Kenya is for all of us.
Right.
And it is upon the people of Kenya to choose their leaders.
Right.
Not those who are there to say we are here to stay and nothing you can do. It's unfortunate, because it's something I keep on saying, that Kenyans don't make their choice.
Right.
I wish this BBI could bring forward the freedom of Kenyans to do what they want, to elect their leaders.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that is not the scenario in our country. I am a bit disturbed when I hear some discussion that we need BBI to do this, to do that, like what Agwad has just said, to make DCI, I don't know, Kenya Bureau of Investigation. Those are things which can be done through Act of Parliament. We have autonomous bodies in our country which have gone through an Act of Parliament, and they are performing very well.
Right.
You don't need a BBI to do that. It can be done through other means. The truth of the matter, the person who has said it all in all these papers we are reading today is Madago. He has told the Kenyans the truth.
Okay.
That this BBI is about us.
Okay.
It's not about you Kenyans. Because if it was about Kenyans, we could ask ourselves, are Kenyans going to afford this kind of a system? I have been a crusader of blooded wage bill in this country.
Okay.
How can we reduce it?
Absolutely.
But now we're just behaving like that person who went to cut firewood. They tried to lift it, they could not. They went back to the bush, they added more on top. This is exactly what we are trying to do.
So
right now we are in trouble. We cannot afford the economy of this country. We cannot afford ourselves. But we are going to add more load on top of that. I'm just wondering in 10 years where my mama will be. I don't know. I can't even focus.
Yeah, but clearly some of these politicians will have secured jobs if that what the governor is saying is anything to go by. Now I'd like to shift gears to another story on the top page of the Daily Nation. Revealed secrets of MP's Somalia trip, and this has had people's tongues wagging because it has seemed as an inappropriate meeting. They did not get the go ahead from the minister, the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and obviously landed themselves in hot soup, and they were held at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport after they arrived. Now, tough questions for 11 politicians who secretly left Nairobi on Saturday for Mogadishu, where they were hosted and dined with President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo in what could herald a fresh diplomatic tiff between Kenya and its neighbor Somalia. And of course, they're pictured right there. And what was of concern to the country was how the MPs traveled to a foreign country without the necessary clearance, which is according to Secretary Murithi Kangi. I'd like to start with you to give your opinion on this one.
I have two thoughts on that.
Yes.
One, are we having people who are leading us with another Indian interest somewhere else? And that is the problem we are having. How come we've not been able to curb the problem of Al-Shabaab? Could we have some people somewhere who are supporting them? And yes, they may argue that they went there for the interest of the country. But if you are doing so, then you must notify the authority. I've been a member of parliament. Right. There's no way you would just step out of the country without notifying the speaker, because those are the laid down procedures. But though this matter is under investigation, we believe that the investigators has got the powers to investigate and come up with the real reason why they went out there. But I can tell you for sure, and I want to tell Kenyans, you will never know why these guys went out there. You will never know, and they will never tell you. Because if there are people who keep secrets, it is, I don't want to brand them, but it is Somalis.
Yes.
They know, they have the reason why they went there, and if they were going there for good purpose, for good intentions, it had no harm for them to say it, that we ought to declare that we are going to our neighboring country, we are going to meet the president, to have 11 elected members of parliament being paid by taxpayers' money to go to sneak outside another country, whereby this country has got bad relationship with the other. That is a breach of protocol per se. It's a breach of protocol. And I want to say it's like there's been some motives behind. There must be a sinister motive. I don't think it was for good faith. If it was for good faith, they could have let it open. But Kenyans need to be very careful. To me, it looks like we have leaders who are serving other interests other than the interest of our country.
Right.
Because if it was about discussing our national security or our national issues, they could have let the national intelligence understand we are going for this purpose, we are going to do this. There is no person who is serving under government, under Kenyan government, who is authorized to go and negotiate out there unless we have this Kena Rashid business where they discuss business under the table and it is not known, and then at the end of the day it comes out to be something else.
Right. Now you've talked about protocol, and so to just lay the facts bare, we are being told on this in this article that while MPs may travel as private citizens, meeting a foreign president is not and must be arranged must be the arrangement of protocol officers. A diplomat in Nairobi has explained to this writer. But more curious were reports that the MPs travelled on the invitation of the Somali National Security Intelligence Agency boss Fahad Yassin and left the country on a chartered flight paid for by Mogadishu. While in Mogadishu, they also allegedly lodged on the premise of NISA, suggesting the mission was more of a Mogadishu affair than a Kenyan one. But of course, these are Kenyan members of parliament, 11 of them to boot. Mr. Weda.
Two things. I think let's not see the darkness and pee in the house. You just brave and go out. There are people in this country that, due to their community, they seem to love for the other country. They seem to love Somalia. There are some people of Somali extraction that seem to love Somali more than they love Kenya, and they feel they belong the other side. This is not just today, it is historical. Look at the Ogaden War, look at the shifter problem, look at it history. And history will show you that there are some people, they are on this side, but they think they belong elsewhere. Look at a time when we had terrorism around here and many people had come into Isilia and there was some form of screening. You're saying there are strangers who have come into our country, and we could see clearly a bunch of members of parliament then siding with these foreigners.
But Mr. Weda, how would you realistically have them extricate themselves given their historical ties with Somalia?
Even us, now as I come from the Luo nation, there are some Luos in Uganda, there are some Luos in Tanzania, there are some Luos in South Sudan. Right. Now, if there is an issue, if there's a problem, then I tend to join my Luo colleagues in Tanzania against the interests of Kenya. Take, for instance, Somalia. We have a problem. There's a court dispute about the boundaries with Somalia. We are almost going to war. There was a time we threw out some of their diplomats out of this country. We have our soldiers fighting there. Right. So when you see our members of parliament feeling closer
Right.
to those Somalis because of some kinship. That is a height of unpatriotism. So I think one, it is that kinship, and it is historical. You look at their history, they tend to think they belong there. To the extent, I think if there was a referendum, they would want to go there, except things are not orderly. Secondly, I think this is a case where, I'm not saying it happened, but this is a kind of environment where envelopes thrive. This kind of haste would only work where envelopes are very good. I don't think there will be any reason other than not the interest of Kenya, not the interest of security, not the, it's about going there. It is personal interest, and then it is ethnic interest, and it is very, very dangerous. Somali, they are trying to take our land, they are trying to take our ocean, and they know it.
Is that not too far off?
Yes, you know, this is a dispute in court.
Yeah.
There is a court, international court dispute between Kenya. Yes.
Border dispute.
And as Kenyans, we are on this side saying it is ours. They are also on that side saying, so every Kenyan is enjoined by the Constitution to actually look at and stand by the interest of Kenya. Okay. You cannot then say some of my fellow Luos who are in southern Sudan, they are more right than the Luos who are in Kenya, or they are more right, we love them more than we love the Kikuyus here. Okay. That is unpatriotism. That one will become an enemy of Kenya. So these people, what they did, I think action should be taken, serious action. Either they go and become MPs in Somaliland, or they rededicate their loyalty to us.
All right. Now, Mr. Gwanda, I would like you to give your sentiments on this one. We are told in the paper that Muturi says parliamentarians did not inform him before traveling to hostile country. As Mr. Weda has put it, clearly outlining why it would be perceived as a hotline or a hostile country. What do you make of this development or this discovery?
Let me first say this. These are vagabond politicians. And it is an insubordination to the Parliament of Kenya.
Right.
It is an insubordination to the President of the Republic of Kenya. And it is also an interference to our sovereignty with our neighboring country, who can call our leaders devoid of the knowledge of the Parliament, as well as the President and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That is a foreigner trying to interfere with the peace and stability of a country. Hence the reason I say these are vagabond politicians that must be put to where they belong. It is not in the interest of this country for any negotiation and foreign negotiation to be done by members of Parliament. If anything, even Parliament itself, Speaker Muturi, is saying these guys, he was not even aware that they were going out of the country. If you look at the Freedom Air that they were flying on, that looked like a chartered plane. You don't know what was carried in that plane when it was going to Somali, and you don't know what was carried in that plane when it was coming to Kenya. We are having war with Al-Shabaab in Somalia. And these are members of Parliament that have literally been unable to protect even the teachers that are teaching in their own constituencies. If anything, they've been prone to attacked by Al-Shabaab, and the investigations are out there, and it's so clear that Al-Shabaab is gaining entry in this country in collusion with our own citizens who are living along the borders. Hence the reason why they've been attacking non-Muslims in those areas, the very areas where these members of Parliament are coming from.
Right.
If it was in the interest of this country, then the members of Parliament will have contacted the parliamentary, the Speaker or anybody in Parliament, even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or even the State House for that reason, so that they will be accompanied by a government official who is in charge of any negotiation that will take place.
Right.
But because that was not done, this was the voodoo mechanism of leadership trying to say, let's go here and wink the public that we're going in the interest of our constituents in the border. It is not in the interest. When it comes to matters of security, I think Kenya has one of the strongest security arms, or not even arms, but intelligence, not even one of the best trained securities, whether it's in the police, the military, whether it's in NSI, NIS, whether it is in DCI. You cannot claim that as a member of parliament, you've been invited by another president, but a president of another country, to negotiate on behalf of your country,
Mr.
on
Agwanda,
behalf of your president.
though it says MPs visit Somalia on the Standard to discuss peace amid treason talk. Now, if they were to go through the proper channels, I'm trying to play devil's advocate, do you think they would even be allowed anywhere near the negotiating table or to have these talks?
Not possible.
Yeah,
not
but then
possible.
they are sort of in a place where they are in the middle ground. They're Kenyan members of parliament, but with those historical ties with the other side. So you would say they are better placed to understand the intricacies and how to win over.
Not at all. And we are aware that Duale, the majority leader of parliament,
Yes.
his sister is a member of the cabinet in Somalia. We are aware that this relationship goes back, just like Weda has said, many, many years. We are aware that most of Kenyans are politicians, and especially from the Somali areas, are doing business with Somalia. We are aware that the economy of Somalia, a lot of the things that we are manufacturing in this country are being siphoned into Somalia by this politician. But that do not give them the proximity to negotiate on behalf of the country without the leadership of the country. The protocol is very clear. Anybody charged with the responsibility to negotiate and talk on behalf of this country is none other than but the Minister of Foreign Affairs. That is why that office has been funded and given resources to do that. And there are also cases where basically the president has appointed individuals like former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, who has been negotiating in South Sudan. And we've also known that even President Moi, when he retired, was asked also to provide leadership. But that is so clear. And it is in the mandate of the president to appoint such individuals. But members of parliament are not allowed and cannot be allowed on behalf of Ministry of Foreign Affairs to go negotiate without even the knowledge of Foreign Affairs.
Right.
This is an insult to our country and must not be tolerated. I cannot go and negotiate on behalf of anything in this country if I'm not mandated by the authority. I am not interviewed by Parliament, the very Parliament given me the authority and power sworn and set out that this is my mandate that we have in place. This is not a country where people just wake up and do things. I strongly believe that whatever these people went to do in Somalia need to be investigated and be brought to book, because if it is not done in the harshest way possible, it will happen again and it will hurt this country.
Let me just add that it is not the work of MPs to negotiate peace. We don't pay them to negotiate anything. Just imagine President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta today dining and whining with some MPs from Uganda or Tanzania. What do you think we'll end up with? We'll end up with war. There will be a problem straight away. Leave alone even a governor dining and whining with MPs from a neighboring county. So this is not a trip that we can say was in good faith. If these people want to move in Somalia, let them tell us. We do a referendum, we chop off that part and give it to them. We have issues. Their children cannot go to school because of insecurity. Teachers have been withdrawn. They need to have debated that to look for solutions. They continue increasing problems. Yes, they are the part of the problem where we can find it very easy. Okay, we can chop off part of this. You can go to that Somalia and leave Kenyans. We have so many problems that we need to deal with, that when you see our MPs with our money and they have eaten our food and they have taken our tea, then they think they are closer to Somali's country than Kenya. It is very sad. I don't feel nice. I pray for them that they may Jehovah touch their heart so that they love this country. They live and love Kenya.
Now, let's shift gears to Mother's Health. Now, we're told on page 9 that exposed NHIF rot rings the death knell for universal healthcare. And we are told here that documents paint a picture of an insurer that is on his deathbed. Now, the rot at the National Hospital Insurance Fund is not about to end anytime soon, as documents tabled in Parliament paint a picture of a government institution that is, of course, dying. In the document obtained by the nation, corruption, bungled recruitment of members, mismanagement of contributors' money, inflated procurement, and among many other things that just point to irregularities and stints in counterproductive commercial insurance schemes, sum up the mess at NHIF. And obviously, with these things that continually surface to the papers every time that are very negative about the NHIF, the common mwananchi always emerges as a loser. Honorable Mutambo, when you see yet another headline pointing to very dark happenings at the NHIF and why it's obviously not working to its best capacity, what do you feel?
I feel sad, and it's very actually sickening to speak about. And I can tell you it's all about leadership in institutions. I'm saying this being a leader in one of leading Kenyan institutions, which is a regulator. And it's all about leadership, the people who are put there. It's not about the president of this country, although they are the ones who does the appointments. But when we have people who do not have leadership skills to lead an institution, this is what you find. And you will not only get this one from NHIF, you will find this in many other institutions. People squander public resources in many ways. I have been in one institution which, when I walked in there, it was almost dead until nobody knew that there was something called this name. It is now people are realizing it is there, and people don't actually follow the law. People don't follow the law when they're executing their mandate. Somebody would want to sit somewhere and say, I'm the boss and I will do what I want, and this are the results. So the issue is about management and the responsibility of those who have been given the task to do what they're supposed to do. They don't do it right. NHIF, generally, it should have been a very good initiative for Kenyans. When you have an NHIF card, you should be treated across the country. There's no hospital which you should walk in and fail to get treatment because you don't have insurance. But today, even those who have those insurance cards, you walk into an institution and you don't get treatment because the NHIF has been blacklisted because they don't pay the hospitals which offer the services. Then number two is they collude with the doctors and the hospitals. They hike the bills or they present fake treatment reports that the weather was here and he was treated of coronavirus and blah, 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 and the bill is 20 billion, 10 million, which is not there. That is what is happening in our institution, and that is what is killing our country. We go back again to corruption. You know, we keep on fighting corruption, we're looking at the big fish, not knowing that the rats, the small ones, they are many, and they are hitting a lot. You know, locust is a very small animal, very small insect. I don't know whether it can eat a kilo. Locusts cannot eat a kilo of anything. But because there are many, they bring care, they swap everything and they clean everything. So these small locust corrupt people, let me brand them as locust corrupt, because they are small, but many of them. These are the people who are going to fleece this country.
Absolutely.
And that is the issue.
In a previous report, you're told this goes down all the way to the smaller towns. It's not just at the headquarters. So it's a huge problem. But then it's being tied to universal health care. And this has to do with access to health care. So when you see, are we being alarmist by saying the failure of NHIF equates the death knell for universal health care, Mr. Weda?
Thank you. I think before I respond to that, I don't agree that the problem is NHIF.
What is the problem?
The problem is the medical industry. This problem of doctors, hospitals admitting people and taking money, people being done, several tests being done. We have seen them even when you are paid.
Yes.
You go and do an HIV test in the morning. You go to another doctor, he says, I'll only trust my own report. Why? What do they want? They want the very laboratories where they make money to do this. So they make this thing very expensive. That is why even private health service providers, insurance health service providers, they have difficulty, they have problems, not only here, the world over. Unless there is proper and very major look into the industry.
Right.
it would be very so NHIF being some people seated somewhere in Upper Hill, and then you walk around with the cards, you go to your friends and they do the games. It is not essentially, it is the doctors, the nurses, the hospitals. Now, it is also unfortunate that one of the big four,
yes,
quality affordable healthcare, has been swept by BBI. My president, my deputy, they have forgotten affordable quality healthcare. Now what they are selling to us is BBI. They say as long as there's BBI, it can be very good. But look at the standard. You look at it on top. I'm paying 20K monthly for 58 years old for a child who died. This is a problem for Medicare. These are the things we are saying
need to be priority, right?
Yes, so government should go back. Mr. President, go back to deal with the issues of affordable quality healthcare. Okay. Even before we make it universal, make it affordable so that somebody who earns 20,000, 30,000 can buy it. Cuba has done it. It is there in India. So us, we have no reason. But when we are spending a lot of our money and time either traveling to Somali or traveling to Meru for a rally, then you know that the devil is fat and there's need for us to put our resources more in this thing. One of the worst things is food, health. It is bankrupting us. And it is very dangerous.
Right. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'd love to have gotten more sentiments on this one. But let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more discussions with our panelists on the way it is.